Hello and welcome to another episode. Today we are going to use the output of a 3D posing software as the basis for our image-to-image process. We do this to achieve better consistency in terms of backgrounds, but also to allow more control over the pose of the character and the clothing of the character, which is very handy when creating a manga page. And I know that there are other solutions to this problem. For example, ControlNet Open Pose, which is very handy to pre-pose a character in a text-to-image process. But I find this approach that I am using much more convenient simply because it combines the option to apply clothing, consistent background, and a consistent character pose in basically one step. So let's begin. I opened up the manga page that we are going to edit today, and on the top right we already have 3 finished panels that we can use as a reference to get the colors correct. And on the bottom left, we have 3 more images that are basically the raw output of the posing software that I'm using, that are still rough 3D images that we are going to inpaint over. Just so you know what you can expect from this video, this is basically the raw output from the game that I'm using, and this is what I ended up with after some generous inpainting. And it's this panel here, after some rescaling. Another example, this is the raw output from the posing software with a little bit of brushing over some details. And this is what happened after the inpainting process with facial adjustments, etc. Quick disclaimer, the software that I'm using is a game called Koikatsu, which is a hentai game. And I think you can get it on Steam. I'm not quite sure if it's still available because I think the developer of this game had some bankruptcy issues. I'm not quite sure. You're gonna get this game somewhere. And yeah. Let's move on. This is the scene we are going to edit in this video. As you can see, it is a very dramatic camera angle from the ground upwards. And there is like a depth of field effect, like a fisheye effect to the room applied to give it a little more action. And the background has lots of annoying clutter that we are going to remove. I was too lazy to create my own background model in this posing software, so yeah, just to save time, I'm gonna paint over it in GIMP instead of making an actual model from the background. And after some cropping, I ended up with this image. I also brushed in the skirt of the character because I had to remove the skirt in the 3D modeling software simply because the skirt just refused to apply correct physics. And yeah, rough brushing over it is gonna fix this issue. I removed the background clutter, as you can see. I also removed some of her ponytail simply because the ponytail was a little bit too big in the 3D modeler. And I also shortened the length of her side bangs a little bit and fixed a clipping issue around this area and applied the pink color of her top on this side to fix this hole. So after some rescaling to 1024 by 1024, we are done with the raw image that we are going to use in Stable Diffusion. But before we go to the Web UI, I'm going to show something else that is interesting with this approach, which is the opportunity to create a background separate from the foreground character. I basically have two images, one with only the background and one with the background and the character, which makes inpainting a complicated background and fixing it in Stable Diffusion a lot easier, since I don't have to care about the character obstructing some things and breaking line consistency, etc. So this is a very nice approach if you have a complicated background. You basically create both images. You use the image without the character for inpainting the background, and then you just drop the character in and inpaint the character as well. In this video, I'm not going to use this process simply because the background is simple enough that it's probably not worth the extra time. But if your background is very complicated, or has lots of detail, or has more focus on the created image, then this might be an approach that you should consider. I loaded up WebUI with the usual prompts for this character and some basic prompts to describe the background of the image. And I inpainted over the bed she's sitting on in the first step with some generous denoise, 0.6. And this is basically what we ended up with. In comparison to the 3D image we had before, we now have these nice bumps here to emphasize her weight. And as you can see, it also blurred her legs a little bit, which is something I don't actually want, but we can fix this later in painting. For the second step, I am going to fix the walls in the background. And this is basically what I ended up with on the left side. And on the right side, as you can see here. When doing this, and you are not using the separate background from foreground approach that we discussed earlier, make sure you check the line consistency of the background, because this is a very, very obvious AI mistake that whoever is going to see this picture will immediately see this as an issue, and I can't stretch how important it is to fix this issue, because this is a very dead AI giveaway, more so than hands in my opinion, because human artists struggle with hands, but human artists never struggle with getting lines straight. So this is, you got to fix this, and I can't believe how many images I see on CividEye or basically any other web page that has backgrounds that are beautiful on first glance, but completely mess up line consistency. Okay, next step, we're gonna fix the ceiling. So, fix the ceiling. Again, check line consistency. This is why I said on complicated backgrounds, use the approach of inpainting the background separate from character, because you don't have to care about this anymore, because you can do all this in one inpainting step. And we are going to continue with the curtain. As you can see here, I inpainted over the curtain, and I used the reference image from my previous pictures to match the shape of the curtain so that it looks consistent. And in the next step, I fixed the color of the curtain. I did this in GIMP and not in the Web UI. simply because color correction is very easy to do in any photo editing software. And with this image, we are basically done with the background and can concentrate on the character next. So let's start with the character. And as usual, I will start from the bottom and work my way up towards the face and finish with the eyes last. So let's start with the legs and apply some generous mask to the whole bottom part of this image, including the hand, the legs, and her skirt. Okay, let's take a look at the prompts. And they seem correct. I'll try it without mentioning that this is some kind of bed sheet structure and just see if the in-painting process will get it right, just from the context. Let's roll. And this is what we ended up with after a couple of creations. I like how the skirt is falling down between her legs, so I picked this image. I don't like the blockiness on the left side and the right side, but this will be replaced with in-painting anyway when we are fixing the hands, so it doesn't really matter. Quick disclaimer break. Doo-doo. She's wearing a white bikini bottom underneath her skirt. There's no way I would put her underwear up for display like that, right? That would be scandalous and get me demonetized. Let's pretend for a bit that my videos are monetized in the first place. Also, there is totally a hot tub somewhere in the room she's sitting. So it's totally a hot tub scene, which is super cool with content regulation. Alright, let's continue with the hands. I'm gonna in-paint over the hands and arms a little bit and see where we can go from there. I also re-roll the right side of the skirt pattern that we have here, just so we can clean it up a little bit. I'm trying it without the dot trick, and let's see what we can get from here. And I got this version after a few generations, and the hand looks correct here on the left side, and the right side as well. The skirt is even now. There's a little bit of correction I need to apply in this part, because this is not something that would happen in reality. Otherwise, it looks pretty good already. So let's continue with her breasts. This is the mask we are going to use, and let's see how many generations we need to get it right. And after a few images, I ended up with this one, and I think it's pretty clean outlines. It has still a bit of visible arm here on the top side, which is neat, and it has this wonderful squished part of her chest resting on her knees. And we can continue with her head. There's a little bit of an error that happened here, which I am going to fix in GIMP in the meantime. And for the final in-painting step, we are going to in-paint over her entire head and then do a separate pass over her face. And then we're basically done here. So let's start with the head entirely. Mark everything, and we're gonna adjust some prompts just to increase the attention to the prompts that we use for the face. So I added some facial prompts to describe her facial expression, and we moved everything that isn't relevant to the face. So I replaced all the background tags with white background, because she's posed basically at this point before a white background. And I removed everything describing the bottom half of the picture. So let's generate. And I got this image, which I like a lot and is very consistent with her previous designs. So we're gonna do just some slight adjustments because the facial expression is not quite correct. For now, I want her to be a bit less embarrassed and a bit more like she's talking. So we're gonna paint over just the face again. Also maybe remove some of the blush effect because it's a little bit too prominent. And I re-rolled the face a little bit and got this image which matches the expression I want her to have on this panel. And I also re-rolled her ponytail a little bit to give it a bit more detail. And with this, we are done with this video and also this image. I am going to apply a few more adjustments to this image before I can put it into the manga page, simply because if you stumbled on this video by chance, then you don't know, but most of my viewers will probably know that this is a very cultured manga, and I'm gonna do some adjustments that I can't show on this video. So you can see the final result in the manga, and yeah, that's it for today. Bye!